Hi, everyone. So in this short training video, I am going to show you step by step how exactly I create simple and easy flips classroom videos for my students to follow at home. A lot of times, teachers tend to get very overwhelmed with the thought of a flipped classroom because they have to make these videos. Do they have to edit them? How are they going to share them with their students? It's actually not that hard. And today I'm going to show you a nice, simple way to do that. So, first, we're just going to go over some of the tools that I use in order to create the videos for my students. I do like using Google Forms because you can embed the video right into the form and then have some follow up questions for assessments right there on the form with the students. So it's really nice way to evaluate how well these students understood the video that you gave them and the topic and content that you gave them. I also like using Screencastify as my recording device. It's an extension offered through Chrome. It's nice and easy to use. They have a wide variety of options available with their free version. So I think it's just a nice, simple tool to use for creating short videos. I also like using QR codes. I think they're an easy way to share the activity with the students. So my students will, I will generate a QR code that has a link to the Google form in it. I print that out, and then that day I have my students glue the QR code right into their notebook. And then when they take their notebook home, they have the QR code that they can scan with a mobile device or a laptop or a tablet. And then they have their Google form and video and comprehension questions right there available to them, right in the same notebook that they're going to write those notes in. I have used Google Slide to create my notes from time to time, but most often I just record myself putting the notes in my own notebook so they can see exactly how I want the notebook laid out. Another online tool that I like to use for creating or sharing the video with the students and checking their understanding is Edpuzzle. I think it's a great resource to use. Again, it's very simple. You can upload your video and then incorporate questions to check the students' comprehension. For my older students who use Google Classroom a little bit more, I do from time to time add the flipped classroom activity into their Google Classroom. And this is really nice too. So if they don't have access to that QR code, or if their tablet isn't working on the QR code, they always have it in their Google Classroom. So what we're going to do now is kind of jump into how I lay things out. So I have my notebook here, and we spend a lot of time at the beginning of the year with how to fill out the notebook, what the expectations are. We go very slowly. So I don't actually send my students home with their notebook the first week of school. It usually takes until about the third week where I introduce the notebook. We practice by doing it in class, and then they go home and they do it independently as homework. Also, as a side note for how I create these, I do have a external camera that I use to create my videos. Because I'm filling out a notebook, I find it's just easier that way. So I do like using my external camera. So here is the software program that comes with my external camera. So I can see the notebook right here. And this is where I would fill in the notes exactly how I want my students to fill them out in their own notebook. And then I would give examples and where I want to express importance on things, I can do that. So, for example, today I was talking about nouns to my students. I would make sure I created a title that they could also use. I would define what nouns are and then just go from there. A lot of times you'll be able to find anchor charts that can be print it out and your students can glue right into their notebook. So if you know that your students might not want to write everything out, or that is a large piece of information that will take them a long time to write, you can just print it out and then have them highlight the parts of the anchor chart that you want them to really focus on. Okay, so now jumping into the Google form, I'm going to kind of X out of a couple of these things. Okay, I don't want to thank you yet. So here we have my YouTube channel that, as you can see, has a wide variety of flip notebook activities already created. And what I'm going to do is take these videos and put them right into a Google form. So I can come right up. I'm going to create a new tab for myself. I'm going to go down to Forms. I'm going to add a blank one. Then I'm going to label this for my students. So this is a flipped notebook activity. And this is going to be about, nouns. I want to make sure that I put in a description so that the expectation is always there. Watch the video and answer the questions to check your understanding about nouns. Another thing that I want to do, because some of my students are younger, I want to make sure that in my settings, I have a few things marked. I'm going to mark this as a quiz so that they get some sort of response. I'm also going to have a response typed in for them. I don't want to collect the addresses at this point because some of my students are too young to actually have addresses. And then sometimes they use their parents' account. So I want to make sure that I'm not collecting the addresses. So those are the settings that I like to change. I also will sometimes make sure that the limit to one response is off, because if they get something wrong, I want them to be able to go back and edit it. A confirmation message is always something nice to put in there so that your students know how they did, or they get some kind of acknowledgement from you. One of the fun things that I like to do is I like to put in a secret message or a secret code. So your code word is person. And then if they come in and they tell me the secret code word, then sometimes they'll get like a bonus point, or it's just something that's more fun and more encouraging and motivating for my students to do their work. So once I have all that set up, my first question that I always put in is to have my students answer with their name. So I always have their name on the activity, and then I make that a required question. Now this is where we get into adding our video. So I'm going to add my video, and I can come right up here to my channel. I do believe I have a noun one in here already from a previous lesson. So I'm going to scroll through and see if I can find my nouns. Of course, I can't find it right now. So I'm just going to take any random one for right now, and I can get a shareable link for this video. Then I can come right in here and paste it and go to search, and there's my video right there. Again, I know it's not nouns, and then I can add a title, watch the video below. Another thing I like about using the Google Forms is if I want to add an additional video just to help my students get that understanding, I can. So sometimes what I'll do is I will actually add an additional video to help my students understand the topic a little bit more. So if I go in here and I type in nouns, all these fantastic YouTube, what is a noun video pop up. So my students love Jack Hartman, so I'm going to add that one to there. Watch me to build your understanding. Okay. Now, once they've had those videos, now what I like to do is I like to go in and I like to ask some reinforcing questions just to make sure that my students are understanding the content that is being delivered. So this is where I might say, click what is a noun. And then I'm going to come down here. And again, I love the question options that are available on Google Forms. So I might put person, place, thing, action. And I might even go ahead and help my students by saying check free boxes. So that way they know. Again, I'm going to make this a required activity. And then from there, I can go ahead and ask a question. So again, I usually ask my students about 3 follow-up questions just to check their understanding. And then I can go ahead and I can send this form with the flipped classroom activity video, with a reinforcing video, and with comprehension and questions all in one spot. And I can send it via email. I can get a link and I can put that link on their Google Classroom, or I can turn that link into a QR code and put it in that way. So that is how I create very simple activities, flipped activities for my classroom. As you can see, didn't really take me that long to do. The longest part is just setting up your notes to show your students, and whichever way you feel is easiest to do that. Like I said, a lot of times I just find a simple anchor chart that I can print out and then highlight, and then my students can follow along and highlight on their own notebook. So after completing this video, or after watching this video and completing your own Google form questions, I would like you to think about a topic that you could use for your classroom with a flipped activity. Then I would like you to create your own video. You can put this video on either an Edpuzzle, if you prefer Edpuzzle, or a Google form, and then share that with me so I can see what great ideas you have for your own classroom. Thanks and have a great day.